TJ McLaughlin here, talking about wisdom, connecting all the dots, looking at the big picture. So in the preceding video, I made the connection between capitalism and socialism, and follow up on that. There's another way I'm looking at this, and that is self-interest and collective interest. So self-interest would be related to capitalism, and the collective interest to socialism. And people look down on, I mean, I've heard this a lot about self-interest. Oh, you shouldn't be self-interested. Self-interest is bad. You should just be concerned about others. Thing is, we all operate out of self-interest. But that's just the way it is. We all operate from our own self-interest. When you take someone like, someone might say, well, what about Mother Teresa? She had no self-interest. She wasn't interested in herself. She was interested in others. She worked for others. Well, as we all know, Mother Teresa was a Catholic. And as a Catholic, she believed in the afterlife. And she had self-interest in the afterlife, in her afterlife. And that's and this was a kind of a bugaboo for Immanuel Kant, who was a German philosopher, and he was trying to figure out, according to him, there was no moral worth. There was really no moral worth unless you did something moral that was detrimental, that was not in your self-interest, that was detrimental to your self-interest. And he couldn't come up with anything just for that reason, because when you want to do something good and moral, and there's always the afterlife that racking up some points for your afterlife. So that's self-interest. You have a self-interest there if you really believe in that afterlife. So it's self-interest and the collective interest. And then people think, like capitalism and socialism, that those two things don't go together. They're diametrically opposed to one another. However, that's not true. Self-interest / collective interest is a dynamic. And it's a dynamic that you find in every social system that ever was. Self-interest / collective interest. It's a dynamic. And I would say that that's a dynamic that will always be the case for any social system whatsoever. Self-interest, collective interest. Now you go back to our primitive existence, where this guy Hobbes, a Scottish philosopher, thought that, I think he was around the 1500s, before there was any real discovery of tribes in Amazon and places like that. He thought, because he was thinking quite correctly, that we all operate out of self-interest. So in the wild, in our primitive existence, there was nothing to bring about some change. There was nothing that would coalesce those people, primitive people, into a group. So he thought that it was total warfare. Every man against every man. Total warfare. And that was it. Because there was no, as he called it, the Leviathan, something like, so in the civilization, we have the law enforcement or religion and to, keep us in line. There was nothing there. There was nothing like that in our primitive existence. But in a way there was, and that would be the nature of things. We're subject to the nature of things. And internally and externally. Now, what the main goal of, the main concern in primitive existence was survival, basic survival. And it's the instinct for self-preservation, it's the instinct for survival. And we all know that, everyone knew that surviving on one's own in the wild is not really an option. Belonging to a group, being part of a group, a tribe, your chances for survival were increased exponentially. And, and it's kind of, even chimpanzees, they form groups, No, why not humans? So we did. We formed the tribes out of our self-interest to survive. So that self-interest created that collective interest of the tribe. And the tribe was something that every member of the tribe thought was greater than themselves. The tribe was greater than oneself. And people really lived for the tribe. So there you have an example of self-interest / collective interest forming a tribe. Now, you can see this today. You can see this today in our civilizations, where we survive by what? Making money. That's how we survive. Money is everything. Money is food, shelter, clothing, transportation, everything. You have to have money. That's how you survive. We don't think of it as survival, we just go out and get a job, make some money, That's how you survive. So, what does that mean? Well, okay, let's say somebody just gets out of college. Say, well, I got to get a job. So they go out, they get a job. What does that mean? It means they become part of a business, company, which is a collective. It's a collective. So they become part of that collective and they contribute to that collective's survivability, its profitability. And in contributing to the collective and being part of the collective, one's self-interest is rewarded with a paycheck, with money, so you can survive. So there you have it. Every day you go to work, you participate in this self-interest, collective interest dynamic. And it's right there. It's hiding in plain sight for everyone to see. But just think, well, get a job, get some money, blah, blah. So that's the dynamic. That's the dynamic. It's the basic dynamic of every economy. And that's something that we need to address. We need to keep in mind. Self-interest, collective interest. Instead of having all these things that we think are diametrically opposed. Okay? All right. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.